good, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome to the second session of the mentorship program. I'm here for you. I didn't have many questions this time, so we're just going to kind of go with my program, which usually tends to work out pretty well. Hi, Laura. Good to see you.
Hi, Kachi. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to drop in and say hello. I'm going to have to do the recorded version today. I'm still making someone beautiful at the salon. So I'll listen for a little bit and then blessings to you.
Yes, you will get the recording as usual. And
Thank
that
you.
reminds me, I'm going like Miri, who is I don't think here today, but she said I miss your voice so much of the chanting. It's just like I miss it. So like what I thought I'm going to start is um, getting a recording a few mantras because it translates pretty well on the on the recording where I recorded on my iPad. For some reason over Zoom it just doesn't sound very good. But I will record a few mantras and then I will upload them and then I'll send you the link. How is that? Then you can just listen them, you know,
Right.
right later on or whatever. So, and those of you who haven't been on the email list because you just came later, I did record. I think it was Christina that asked for a meditation of 10 minutes. Was that right? So I did that. So let me know how you like it. Did you check it out already, Christina?
No, sorry. I
Oh, no
saw it.
worries. I just sent it
Thank you
out
very much.
yesterday.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So, like you see, I'm very responsive. Like, I respond really well when you want something. Just ask. I'm very good at meeting people's needs. So, find a comfortable seat, please. Taking a few breaths, especially into the back of your kidneys, your wings. And if you would be so kind to mute yourself if you haven't yet, it really makes a difference when you quiet the background noise. Put your dominant hand on your belly today rather than your heart. I want to go a little further down. And the other hand on your heart to make that connection too. And just be with the breath for a moment. Start with a little rain practice, which is such an honoring way of meeting your own needs. Really, in order to meet other people's needs, you're going to have to learn to meet your own. And I'm not talking about your desires, I'm talking about your needs. And sometimes that means when you're feeling hungry or like not even hungry, you kind of like craving something. You're finding yourself in front of the fridge and you're staring at the content and you can't really decide. It means you're not really hungry. That might be a perfect moment to stop and recognize what you actually need, not what you want or what you kind of try to distract yourself with a snack, but okay, what is going on right now? Why am I trying to fill? What hole am I trying to fill? all it takes is a moment of pause. And you may find your true need. Maybe it's like, oh, I feel lonely right now. And you're trying to fill your loneliness with a snack. Well, might there be a better way than eating some sugary something or salty something? Maybe you'll simply pick up the phone or your email and say, hey, I really would like to connect. Do you have any time? Meeting your needs. And then you become more available to meet other people's needs too. So recognizing what's there. I've been reflecting on, with this fear meditation that I did, reflecting on how much fear is present right now. But the painful part is that the fears are different. If your primary fear is that you're going to be thrown into poverty because you're losing your business or you lost your job, and you get into an argument with someone who is fearful of the virus or disease in general, these conversations tend to escalate because each person takes their fear as the only one. And of course, it is the only one for you. But it's like, imagine if you have a fear of spiders and another person has a fear of heights. Those are both very real. We know people have them. Now imagine these two people come together and one person says, hey, like, you're stupid for believing that, for having a fear in spiders. And the other person says, oh, well, you're even stupider for believing or for being fearful of heights. And before you know, the conversation escalates. So maybe the first step is that you acknowledge the fear. Because whenever we're triggered in fear or flight, fight, or freeze, primal, our neocortex, the part of us that thinks logically, is literally disabled. And there is a more primal response, which is why a lot of the conversations have become incredibly painful. So step one, recognize your own fear. Like, just recognize it. Oh, this is the fear that is the biggest for me. And it will change your tone when you discuss it with somebody else. You'll be able to explain and say, hey, my fear is this. And the moment when we allow ourselves to recognize our own need, to have this need met, then you're going to become more compassionate for the other person's fear. Oh, your fear is not so much of this virus. Your fear is of becoming poor. Or your fear is being injected with things that are not safe. And instead of battling who is right or wrong, you'll be able to hear that fear. It will change the conversation. All fears are valid. There is no such a thing as somebody's fear not being valid. This is not how it works, of course. You're not going to talk somebody out of the fear of height. For them, that is real. So recognition is really, truly the first step. So maybe acknowledge to yourself what your fear are, which is the second step, to acknowledge or to allow. First you recognize, then you allow, you soften a little bit. Perhaps it's the realization that with your fear, even if it's an obscure fear, you're not alone. Amazing. There are millions of people with fear of heights or fear of spiders, with fear of poverty, fear of illness and death. You're not alone. So you can soften a little bit. You don't have to defend your fear. You can just soften and say, oh wow, yeah, what a human thing to feel is fear. Me and millions of other people have this exact same fear, or one that is similar. If you stay with it for just a little bit in that softness, perhaps there will be a tenderness that arises for this predicament of being human. Foolish humans with our fears and dysfunction. It's like when you have a little animal companion, they're so full of neurosis and you love them anyway, don't you? Not because they're perfect. It's just part of the deal. And that is the medicine, to have that tenderness, that compassion. It's like, oh yeah. And immediately when you do that, it becomes like an us. Compassion for us. Oh yeah. And then soon, it's not just you and all the people with a similar fear, but it's us with all the fears that we experience right now, all over the world. People have different fears. It's the same fear. We need to hold it in tenderness instead of reacting, oh, you're wrong. It's like, I hear that you're fearful of X, Y, or Z. If this tenderness that you may be feeling, that is arising, and it almost arises despite our resistance to it, or despite being distracted, it arises nevertheless from this ground of being, this deeper place. Maybe you call it spirit, or some other people might call it love. This tenderness arises the moment we relax with the predicament for a moment. So if that tenderness, that feeling of compassion had a color, what color would it be? Just take the first color. Maybe it's a soft peach or pink or baby blue or green, whatever is tasty take it. And now send out this color to all of these foolish humans running around with their fears, you being one of them. It's like an adult who sees, oh yeah, this is how we get caught in our anger and fear. And just send this color to everybody, including yourself. May your fear be eased. May your need be met. May you be comforted. Just creating this avenue of including other people with their fears. And then maybe next time you're having an argument with somebody with a different fear, you can just do that. Send them a little bit of that color. And then maybe step 2 would be to even go a step further and turn it into an action. If you notice somebody has the fear of poverty, what can you do to reassure them? Hey, I have some extra this or that, some extra food. How could you turn this care, this need, into an actual step for action? And then all of a sudden, the person who is on the other side that you may be in a conflict with, it's just us helping each other, walking each other home, like Ram Dass says. I see you, I hear you, I acknowledge your fear. I have my own. What can I do to help you? Walking each other home. And make it into a little game. Instead of getting into the defenses and defending your fear, see if you can start listening to theirs and coax it out. Don't listen to their defense or their, try to go deeper. And that's of course part of the eye of the rain, the investigation part, where we realize, oh, this doesn't come out of nowhere. Can almost intuit what somebody's fear might be if they have grown up on the other side of the wall. I have many friends in Germany. They grew up on the other side of the wall. Almost all of them, their biggest fear is to lose agency. People who have known poverty actually experienced it, or there is a ancestral trauma about that has been handed down. That will be their greatest fear. They'll be homeless on the streets. somebody who witnessed a loved one die in a painful way, you know they will be mostly in that fear. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody to have to witness. That's the desire, actually. It's not just for them. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody else to have to witness that. How could there be anything other than compassion when we start investigating where these fears come from, and that they're all just so human, all of them? The three major ones right now are definitely the one of illness and death, the one of poverty, and the loss of agency and medical freedom. Hold them so tenderly. Understand the history of all of them. And then the last one is traditionally non-attachment, but I like nourishing better. How can we nourish that need? Take a couple more deep breaths. And you can slowly open your eyes. Go ahead and stretch out a little bit. If you need to use the bathroom, this is a good time. Otherwise, just go ahead and lay down on your back on your yoga mat, please. Stretch out on the floor. Take your legs up toward the ceiling and shake them out. And then hug your knees into the chest. Sabine, darling, can you turn your camera so that we can actually really see you, your mat, and so we can see you? I'm going to pin you, and then I'm going to record it, so for people afterwards, they get to see a little bit more, and I'm going to use you as a model. I'm going to do that every time from now on.
Give me 1 second. I need to move some stuff around.
Okay, go ahead. Next time, Christina, it's going to be you. So just you can start thinking about how to use the camera from the side the best so that we can see you in the full picture, so that people can see, oh, when I say something, they can see you doing it. Does that make sense? Okay, next time will be you. You'll be my model. Today, Sabine. Yeah, that's probably about good. That you don't need to see all of you, but more or less. Let's do a downward facing dog, Sabine. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, that's good. I like it. Excellent. Oh, perfect. Thank you, my dear. I know I'm sorry to assault you with that last minute. Okay, fabulous. All right, my dear people. Go ahead and come on onto your hands and knees. And just go ahead, inhale, arch your back, look up toward the ceiling, and then exhale, round your back and look at your navel. So part of this practice that we're going to do now, just keep going, is truly accessing into the true state of what we feel, because we're so good. Like when we feel something, especially if it's a little bit uncomfortable, we'll get into arguments about who is right and who is wrong, instead of just addressing, oh, actually I'm feeling fear, or I'm angry, or whatever it happens to be. So part of the yoga practice is to arrive at things as they are. And actually the yoga practice is so much easier to do this because we're breathing and we drop in out of the head, out of the intellectualization of what we're feeling, which is when we get into these kind of rigid places of I'm right and you're wrong. And when we just breathe and feel and move, we start dropping into those deeper places. Beautiful, Sabine. Now go ahead and melt your heart. Come to in the middle and melt your heart so the shoulder blades are coming toward each other a little bit. Beautiful. Lift your navel up toward the spine. Good. And then flex your feet and push back slowly into Adho Mukha Svanasana, into a downward facing dog with your back perfect in a nice lordotic curve in the lumbar spine. Good. Lift your armpits up toward the ceiling while softening the heart, and then let your head drop all the way. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. And then breathe all the way from your hands up and from your feet up into the core of the body. Inhale, come on forward to a plank pose. Good. Keep your belly lifted. Keep reaching back through the heels of your feet and forward through the crown of your head. And then take a deep breath in and exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. Beautiful. Take the arms alongside the body and inhale, lift everything off the floor. Head, legs, neck, chest. Good. Shrug your shoulders a little bit toward your ears and then pull the shoulders back a little bit more. Nice. Now go ahead and bend your knees and take a hold of the tops of your feet. Take your knees a little closer together and spread your little toes. When you spread your little toes, you're actually engaging the outside of your shins, which protects your knees. So keep your little toe active. And then inhale, come on slowly up into a bow pose, the Dhanurasana. But make it like soft, like so inhale, come up a little bit, and then exhale, come on down just a tad. One more time, inhale, come on up a little bit, and exhale down. Cool. Last time, inhale up a little bit, and exhale down. Sabina, can you rest for a moment on the belly? Sabina, can you tilt the camera just a little bit more down so we can see you on the floor? I may ask you to then, perfect. Yep. I may ask you to tilt it up later when we do standing poses, but right now this is perfect. Good. Keep your forehead on the floor, everybody. And then place your hands underneath your shoulders. Nice. Press the tops of your feet down on the floor to make your legs strong. Good. Tuck the tailbone into that. So draw the tailbone down toward the floor. And now with your hands, pull back as you inhale, slowly come on up into a cobra. But really come on up, like diving out, forward and out. Yes. Again, it's not about how much you slam up into some idea of the pose, but make it a process. Like you're pulling with your hands, you're elongating your spine, you're pulling your shoulders back, and you can come up slowly and surely. There is no rush because there is no perfect end point. There's just a work in progress. Good. And always continue to feel and sweep what comes up. You'll be able to see all of your, even the smallest of things that are passing through, like, oh, the desire to go further. Where does it come from? Always being investigating. Good. And then exhale, come on back onto your hands and knees. From there, let your heart melt between the shoulder blades so the shoulder blades are firmly on the back. And then exhale, pull back to downward facing dog. Sabina, this is working out really well. Thank you. Making it really easy for me to see, and for those people who will view this recording later, just makes it a little bit easier. And shake the head out, everyone, one more time. And when you practice like this, it's so easy to find a refuge in your body, even if in the midst of a heartbreak, even in the midst of fear, all of a sudden you're starting to breathe, you're starting to move, and despite the fear, there's something else that will arise, which is simply the joy of being alive, the joy of moving and feeling, and it can often override the fear with something real, something tangible. Like right now in this moment, you realize via your body that there is nothing to be afraid of. Right now, there is nothing to be afraid of. And that is a refuge, at least for this moment. And even if we can break that up occasionally, like when we're caught in a perpetual cycle of fear. We can interrupt that, wrench in the gear just for a little bit. It makes a tremendous difference. Good. Step your right foot forward between your hands. Come on onto your fingertips. Good. Everybody pull your right hip back just a little bit and straighten your left leg a little more. Hug your legs in toward the midline. Make your legs trustworthy. So much of the journey is learning to come back into what is trustworthy, and that we become trustworthy, that we can meet our needs and we can meet us where we are. And sometimes that does mean you're caught in fear or anger or any of the strong destructive emotions. Inhale, take your right arm up toward the ceiling for a little twist. Good. Let the left kidney soften a little bit and come down toward the right inner knee. Move your head a little bit from side to side, just releasing through the palate. And now feeling the connection from your left heel all the way through your tongue. Hello. Left heel to tongue. Isn't that amazing how that broadens this perspective? It's really what we're doing. We're broadening the perspective. Inhale, hand down, and exhale back to downward facing dog. Say yum. I know I can't hear you, but I almost can. Yum. One of my favorite things when I'm teaching. Hear everybody say yum. Yum. Come on down into a child's pose. Just rest into the back body. Breathe into the kidney. Just even a glimpse of that preciousness can give you a respite from these strong emotions that we all get so easily caught in. And unfortunately, online is not the best vehicle. We all get snagged and caught up in our heads a lot because we are not seeing the other person. We don't feel that empathy. It really is making us all online, making us all into psychopaths with no empathy for other people's suffering. So come back into your innocent little creature body and taste the sweetness and the freedom that's actually there, despite all the limitations, despite the fears, despite the pain, despite the little aches and irregularities that you may feel. Despite of that, there's the sense of joy and well-being for simply having breath, being alive. Come on back to your hands and knees. Spread your fingers. Letting the lower back arch, the heart soften, but then lift the navel up to create a strong core. Flex your feet, come on back to Adho Mukha Svanasana or downward facing dog. Shake the head a little bit. Good. Step the left leg forward between your hands. Come on onto your fingertips, because when you do, you're transferring the weight into your legs. And do that. Engage, draw the inner thighs toward each other. It's like, it feels like an embrace. It feels like you're actually creating stability and safety in the body. How good is that? It's all that muscular energy is all related to setting safe boundaries. And inhale, take the left arm up toward the ceiling. Maybe turn the head a few times. And then find that same connection from the right heel to your tongue. Seriously, right heel to your tongue. Good. And then inhale, hand down, and exhale, step back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then inhale, come on forward to a plank pose. And just hold it there for a moment. Always, always pause a little bit. There's nowhere to go, nobody to be, and nothing to do. Good. And lay down on your belly for a moment. Here's one of your little stories for today. There's a story about a crow sitting on a tree doing nothing at all day. And a small rabbit sees the crow and asks him, you know, a crow, it's the, ein Rabe, nein, ist kein Rabe, aber die andere, wie sagt man schon wieder? Oh, never mind. Wie ein Rabe. Sees the crow and asks him, can I also sit like you and do nothing all day? Rabbit is Hase. Can I also sit like you and do nothing all day? And the crow answered, sure, why not? So the rabbit sat on the ground below the crow and rested, aware, non-doing. All of a sudden, the fox appeared, jumped on the rabbit and ate it. And the teaching is to be sitting all day and doing nothing. In order to be sitting all day and do nothing, you must be sitting very, very, very high up. Place your hands underneath your shoulders. And come on back to downward facing dog. In order to be sitting all day and do nothing, you must be sitting very, very high up. Of course, it's a joke. But there's some truth in it, isn't it? Most of us, it's like in the Bhagavad Gita says, you can't avoid do something. You actually have to do something. And it's in the doing that our love or our values actually is being expressed. I've been having these discussions online with some people like who tend to throw the word Nazi around all day long now. And it's actually what makes you a Nazi is your actions more than an ideology in the end. Or maybe not Nazi, but fascism, any kind of rigid ideology, if it's expressed, then it becomes a real problem. Walk your feet forward between your hands. It's really interesting. Even the bad guys thought at times they were the good guys. This is how stupid things start. People think they're on the right side of history or they're doing the right thing. But the behavior is very intolerant, shutting other people down. Almost nobody, unless they're really psychopathic, think they're the bad guys. But people still do very bad things, thinking they're the good guys. That is really a truth that we need to look at. Bend your knees a little bit and then slowly roll on up. Keep your knees a little bit bent and shake everything out. Shake everything out. Do some deep breath in and some deep breaths out. And then bring your hands in front of the heart. Okay, Sabine, can you tilt the camera a little bit back up now? Not too much, just a little bit, like, yeah. Perfect. Exhale, release the arms down to the sides. Inhale, bring the arms over your head. And exhale, forward bend. Beautiful. Step back to downward facing dog. Inhale, take the right leg up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, bring the right knee to the forehead. And step it through between your hands. Bring your hands onto the front knee. Just going to do one of these. Good. Now lift your left thigh up toward the ceiling. So really engage. And with that, guide the femur bone back into the hip socket so that you will have an acetabulum left. A labrum left. You don't want to push right into the front of your groin. You want to resist. So lifting the left thigh up toward the ceiling, and then careful into that, draw the tailbone down until your belly pulls back. Exactly, move your hands back a little bit as you straighten up. Exactly, inhale, lift the left thigh. Exhale, draw the tailbone down as you straighten up a little bit more. Perfect, Sabina. And then take your arms right next to your ears and smile a little bit as you feel in that perfect balance between stability and ease. The stability comes by engaging your left thigh, by engaging the belly, and the ease comes by releasing into the pose that you've made stable in that way. It's not about stretching. This is the stupidest concept ever invented, that yoga has anything to do with stretching. It doesn't. None. Good. Inhale, hands down on either sides of the foot, and exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale, left leg up. Exhale, step it through between your hands. Good. Bring your hands onto the front knee and lean forward as you engage that right thigh. So really straighten the right thigh and lift the right thigh up toward the ceiling. Good. And then into that, go ahead and draw the tailbone, lift the belly, move your hands back, yes, just like that. And then when you're ready, take your arms alongside the ears and smile. Because when you hit that perfect balance between stability and freedom, there's nothing else but smiling. Because it just feels right. Perfect boundaries, being able to meet your own needs first, which means you have to create safety and stability. The world will never do it for you. The world will never be a safe place. Inhale, hands down, and exhale, step back, downward facing dog. This is now the big thing that, you can't really have certain people on campus anymore. There has to be safe space. You can't be challenged with anything other, any other viewpoints. This is very dangerous. The world is never a safe place. It's never been. The only person who can make it safe is you and the way that you are engaging with others. And if everybody does that, there will not be a rise of intolerance. Inhale, come on forward to a plank pose, and exhale, lower down. Good, turn your cheek to the side. Second story. It's one of my favorite. Jarvis Masters, who is an African-American Buddhist who is in jail and has been in jail, imprisoned on death row at San Quentin, where I used to teach, for a really long time. So he took the vows of compassion from practicing in prison and been incredibly inspiring, written books. And there's a story that he tells that I think expresses the deep understanding that underlies activism. So as it goes, one day there was a seagull out in the yard in San Quentin. A seagull is eine Möwe. It had been raining, and the seagull was there paddling around in a puddle, seine Wasserlache. And then one of the inmates picked up something in the yard and was about to throw it at the bird. So Jarvis, who did this without even thinking about it, he automatically put out his hand to stop the man. But you don't do this in prison. You do not touch another person. And this escalated the man's aggression. He started yelling, like, who the hell did Jarvis think he was? And why did Jarvis care so much about some blankety blank bird? Blankety blank means he was using a swear word. So there was that energy. And everybody started circling around, because this is the way fights would start in the prison yard. And so the inmates, they're screaming at Jarvis, why did you do that? And the words that came out of Jarvis's mouth were, I did that because that bird got my wings. That bird got my wings. And you know, this is like, it was like a Zen koan. It shut that man up, and it apparently was the koan that went through San Quentin for weeks. I heard about it from my guys when I was teaching them. And they were asking Jarvis, what do you mean? What did you mean? It was like a Zen koan. And he would just smile mysteriously, because truthfully, everybody knows. They're in prison. This bird got my wing, don't kill it. We know what that means. It's almost like poetry, where you're reminded of something. Take your hands underneath your shoulders and push back to downward facing dog. Inhale, bring your right leg up. And exhale, step it forward between your hands. Last little pose, and now we're gonna go down to the floor. Turn the left foot down and inhale, come on up into warrior two. Good. First, always think about the stability. Go ahead and draw the muscles on toward the bone. Make that embrace. And think about where in your life you would like a little more stability. Can you start meeting that need? What needs to be done? Don't expect other people to draw the lines for you. You will have to draw them yourself. Some people are energy vampires. There's only one way to deal with an energy vampire. You have to say no. You have to make a boundary and say, I love you, but I need some time for myself right now. And you do this in a friendly way. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. Take the right arm down on top of the right thigh, and then the left arm over the ear. I believe all bad movements started by people not speaking up, by people not drawing boundaries. Imagine like 200 years ago. Inhale, take your hands down on the floor, and exhale, step back to downward facing dog. Imagine 200 years ago, or like whenever, not 200, it was longer than that, when the whole witch craze was. It was like a virus that affected people. Now imagine like the Inquisition, which was what, one or two guys that would come to town with the witch's hammer. Imagine if they had come into the town and the town had simply welcomed them and said, hi, yes, thank you so much for coming by, but we do not have any witches in this town. Here is the way out. And then accompany them. There's, 250 people in that village. And they would accompany those two guys like, thank you so much for coming, but we have no witches in town. Everything is perfect. What would have happened? Nothing. There would have been maybe 10 less witches that would have been burned on the stake. It all starts with us. Inhale, left leg up. And exhale, step the left foot forward between your hands. Turn the right foot down. Inhale, come on up, warrior two. And it really does worry me that so many people do not speak up about things anymore. That's not a good development for a free society. We should always be able to talk about things. Take your left elbow down on top of the left thigh and the right arm over the ear. We should be able to draw boundaries for our safety and be able to speak up. Long, slow breaths. This looks lovely, you guys. And inhale, hands down on either sides of the foot, and exhale, step back, downward facing dog. So for me, what I hold at the forefront of my mind is whoever you don't have the courage to criticize really owns you. We should always be able to criticize somebody. If we can't do that publicly anymore, something is not right. Walk your feet forward between your hands and lay down on your back. Can you turn the camera down again, Sabina, a little bit? Thank you, honey. Perfect. Lay down on your back. Take one hand on the belly, one hand on the heart. So maybe think about that for a moment. Is there anybody in your life that you feel unsafe, that you can't criticize them? Could be a boss. How many times have I seen it in cults or cult-like movements? All of a sudden, you couldn't criticize the guru anymore. Whenever that happened, I always knew it was the beginning of the end. I've watched it a couple of times. When you can't criticize them anymore, when you can't give feedback, because nobody is above feedback. Nobody. Doesn't matter what position you hold. You should always be able to receive feedback. You shouldn't be never too powerful, too big to receive feedback. And if you're in a position underneath somebody in power and you can't criticize them, that is not good. Take your arms alongside the body and inhale, lift your hips all the way up toward the ceiling. Bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Bend your elbows, fingertips up toward the ceiling, and draw back into your arms as you lift your chest up a little higher. Keep drawing the weight onto the inner edges of your feet. And make sure your chin is away from your chest, just like Sabina is demonstrating. And then slowly exhale and come on down. One hand on the belly, one hand on the heart. And I want you to be excited about when you find places where there's a need for boundaries or when you can't criticize somebody. And I want you to find ever more skillful and ever more playful ways of doing it anyways. This is what the practice is about. instead of like doing what you've always done, which is just take it or acquiesce. Okay, how could I assert my boundaries here in a way that is meeting my needs? Of course, many women have gone through that, right? It starts with abuse, maybe or also men have had that. It starts often with verbal abuse. And if you don't draw a line, then it continues with physical abuse. It doesn't get any better when we don't draw the line. We've got to do it. And everything is really a practice to learn how to do it elegantly and powerfully, standing up for ourselves. I have done it very unskillfully at times too. I remember when I was married to an abusive man. He wasn't physically abusive, but he was definitely verbally abusive. And one time we were in the car and he was verbally abusive towards me and he just kept on doing it. And I said, please stop. I said, please stop. I said, please stop. I said, please stop. And he didn't stop. And then I opened the door and stepped out of the car, but we were driving. It wasn't great. I got all banged up, had to go to the hospital because we were like driving 60 miles an hour. It wasn't very skillful on my part. I had to learn how to stand up for myself, how to say no in a way that was not during a car ride, not hurting myself. You don't want to hurt yourself, you don't want to hurt the other person, you want to simply draw a line. Probably the way to have done it is to say at the next opportunity, stop the car and just get out. Make a physical distance. Yeah, I don't think I've ever shared this story in a public way, but it's just with you guys. We all have to learn it sooner or later. Go ahead and do a last pose of your choosing. It could be just bringing your legs up. It could be a twist. It could be a shoulder stand, whatever feels right. Go ahead and take the opportunity to be self-creative, meeting your needs. And go ahead, do the other side. Thank you, Sabine. Good, and then when you're done, slowly stretch out on the floor for a brief Shavasana. I'm going to stop the recording now. letting your weight release into the floor. And let yourself be flooded with that color that you saw, that tenderness that arises when we realize that we all have fears. We're all in this together and we're all walking each other home. How skillful can you get in meeting your own needs? And then it will be so much easier to meet others, and you will find it's so rewarding. It's like when that line gets blurred between taking and between receiving and giving, when they become almost the same or interchangeable. But it can only happen if you have learned to meet your own needs. And then when you give to others, when you meet theirs, you're gifted. It's such an incredible feeling. It's almost like it reverses, like you give, but you really receive. Every teacher knows this. What a gift it is to have students who are really listening and really receiving what you have to give. That becomes such a joyful exchange. It can only happen if you give from plenty, meaning you've learned to replenish your own tank. You've met your own needs. Everything else is just manipulation. And then you fall into the trap of fame or of adulation, all of these byproducts that can happen when you're missing out on what it's really about, which is giving and receiving, and reverse them so that receiving is giving and giving is receiving. So feel yourself held in this flood or wave of the color that you created for the predicament of being human. We're all in this together. And then the prayer comes easy. May all beings be free from suffering. Or as Shantideva says, may I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. And for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. And by Diane Ackerman, in the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon, and the night when it departs. I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, a healer of misery, a messenger of wonder, and an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the cloud veils drawn over it, and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seed, and the crowning season of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life, wherever and in whatever form it may dwell on, earth, my home, and in the mansions of the stars. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning, slowly begin to deepen the breath, wiggle fingers and toes, stretch as you wish. And then roll over onto your right side when you're ready. And then go ahead and slowly come on up for the last 10 minutes. Find a comfortable seat. Few deep breaths today, holding us all in this tender embrace of being human. Finding forgiveness for ourselves and others when we forget who we really are, when we too have gone down some unhealthy path, got lost in an ideology, my current hero is, I forget his name, but he's a black musician, and he just, every time when he heard about a white supremacist KKK, that's the hate organization against black people, when he heard about a guy or encountered somebody who ascribed foolishly to this absolutely insidious and stupid ideology, he went about to befriend them. He just wouldn't let loose, and he is now responsible for hundreds of people that he took out of that organization simply because he showed them that it just wasn't true. Ignorance. It has to be dispelled with knowledge, with enlightenment. We really do have to believe in the goodness of most humans. Yes, I think there are psychopaths and they lack empathy and they are often narcissists too. Yes, there's a high percentage, I forget what it is, but maybe 1 or 2% of all the humans have narcissistic or such tendencies, psychopath even. What do we do with them? We certainly don't reward them. We draw the line. Online, we block them. Yay! But most people are just sometimes ignorant, sometimes believing stupid stuff. Most people are good at heart. It's really true. And by healing or lashing, sometimes people are lashing out because of their own wounds that are unhealed. So let's heal them. Let's walk each other home. Okay, so I have a couple of things that I would like to bring in. Lastly, would you please let me know if in the chat function if you had any particular wishes for a chant that I will be recording for you until next time. Any of the chants that you may know. I'll say 2. I'll record 2 and then send it to you so you can listen to them. And then my oil of this week is my favorite right now, which is the wild orange, for many reasons. But part of the wild orange, what makes it so special is that it lifts the mood. It's really true. So I am actually putting 1 drop in my water at least once or twice a day, and it's just amazing. It just kind of uplifts you right away. You can also diffuse it, which is also very uplifting. And one of the things that make wild orange so special is the monoterpenins and the limonene, and these are apparently responsible for fighting cancer. I didn't know that, but I thought that was so interesting. They are literally cancer fighting properties and also good for the liver. And let's see, I had it written down. Limonene is a chemical found in the peels of citrus fruits and other plants. It is used to make medicine. Limonene is used to promote weight loss, prevent cancer, and treat bronchitis. In foods, beverage, and chewing gum, limonene is used as a flavoring. So yes, start just, if you have the wild orange, start using a drop in your water, or use it for diffusing, and just notice, or just put a drop of it in your hands, and notice how that just takes the mind out of that dark corners of fear. Like, it's interesting when you notice, like when you're caught in a fear attack and then you have a citrus burst, it's almost impossible to stay stuck because it immediately evokes, like, southern France or Greece, and kind of beach and flavorful summertime leisure time. So these are little tricks with which to bring yourself out of any kind of caughtness in the neocortex. So go ahead and unmute yourselves, please. Not okay. In the melody of Amazing Grace, I heard that. And the Hanuman Chalisa, okay. And the Mahamritum Jaya Mantra. Okay, since there's 3, I'll send you these 3. Any questions, my dear friends? How are you doing?
I have a question.
Please, Heidi.
You were speaking about the different fears, and I totally get that.
Mm.
But there's also, to me, it seems more and more different realities, different truths for different people. And it's really polarizing and getting more extreme. And I'm a very open-minded person, and I find myself switching between different storylines, and I find it hard to where to put my faith and trust. I find these times very unsettling and insecure, and you hate to pick the wrong side, you know what I mean?
I so hear you. Yeah, that is the challenge of our times, right? You know, I don't have an easy answer, unfortunately, for you, because I feel that too. I can easily, I've always been able to do that. I've always had these different communities, and I was just seamlessly, they used to call me, not chamomile, what is the animal that changes color?
Chameleon?
Yeah, exactly. I forget.
Chameleon?
Yeah, I forgot the word in English, but anyway, and in German, it just went out of my head. But anyway, so a chameleon, I can change my colors according to where I am at the time. It's really disturbing, isn't it? One, maybe the other people have something to say to that. Like one thing that is probably true is that we're not going to solve this problem online. We're not going to solve this problem we're going to solve this problem one-on-one. That's my feeling. It's like that we're going to have to talk with the person, like saying, yeah, I hear that your fear is X, Y, and Z. And then maybe gently guiding them to the reality that there are other fears as well. And then hoping that they will be able to start hearing that too. But we have to get out of the battle. We have to get out of where we're battling each other and like keep something as the only truth. And yes, I'm also worried about the one-sidedness of narratives and the press that only tells one side of the story on each side, you know, that there is like these different realities. Yeah, building bridges is, I think, is now asked of us yogis. We have to build bridges. That's what I think. We have to build bridges. That's the best I can do with that question.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else like to chime in? We have 6 more minutes or so. 5 more minutes. I just saw my puppy run by. Say something.
Tell us another story, Kachim.
There is another story. There always is another story, huh? Is that what you mean?
No, I would like to hear
another story.
Another story. Yeah.
Oh.
They were great, the stories you told us.
Super. Okay, I have one last one for you. Johnny Appleseed, for those of you who aren't American, is this famous, almost folk hero, but a true person who traveled around the Midwest bringing the seeds of apples and spreading them far and wide, so that there would be orchards across all, state after state through the Midwest. Now, one of the really interesting things was that articulated in the story of Johnny Appleseed in the Botany of Desire is that the way apples propagate in order to get these beautiful red or green amazing fruit that we see now in the supermarket, it has to come through splicing into another tree. That the way the genetics of the apples work, that if you just give the apple and plant the seeds, you're likely to get smaller and sour apples. And it's only by this propagation through cuttings that you can make these big, happy, sweet apples that we all treasure this way. But Johnny Appleseed didn't do that. He was giving seeds because that's what he had. And the pictures you see of him on a boat on the Ohio River with a boat full of apples and apple seeds, it turns out that the main use for the apples was hard cider. Liquor, basically. And the reason Johnny Appleseed was as popular as he was not just that he was spreading apple trees, but there were a lot of farmers out there that were saying, yeah, me too. Give me the seeds and I'll be able to plant my apple trees and we can have a party, basically, or something like that. It's just the way that it is. So the moral of the story is that, our intentions are often mixed, right? Nobody has these pure, intentions. There is always something in there that has to do with us too. So in that way, that's why I'm putting so much emphasis on learning how to meet our own needs first. Because if we're not aware of them, then we're not going to get very far in the world. So that's my last story for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, stay on, Marcus. Everyone else, have a great 2 weeks. I'm going to follow up with an email. I'm going to send you the links from this plus the recording, so all the other people who weren't here today can also get that. All good?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Katarina. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Bye. Bye, Manu. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.